Note the disclaimer. Before we get into this video, I would like to just remind everyone that the film I'm about to cover is MA15+, so unless you're 15 years and over, or have an adult guardian watching with you, it's best not to turn that movie on. Also, if you can't stomach gore, I recommend leaving this video now. With that out of the way, court is now in session.
This head impact is well above anywhere that would start playing this music, unless this is the way it's designed to be started, which seems unnecessarily painful.
Jeez, starting off strong here. Since the play button is further down from where Eggsy smacked his head during the fight, so automatically, one sin off. Making this the second video I've made so far where you start off with negative sins.
If Charlie has a robotic arm with this kind of strength, why was this ever even a fight?
With or without cybernetic limbs, one can still put up a good fight. Thank God you aren't involved with writing over in Hollywood, since your movies would likely be as good as any made by the critical drinker.
Carbirth.
Cringe.
The Kingsman the Furious.
Alright, you mug. I've got Dom on the phone again, and he's telling you to stop using his movie franchise for your rotten stinkers of puns.
Yeah, but what if there were 4 cars?
He would launch 4 missiles. Next question.
That Merlin and Eggsy forgot about this cyborg arm is bad enough, but if this thing can move on its own, why didn't it just strangle Eggsy when it had the chance?
Probably had something to do with the fact that Eggsy was trying to avoid the shooters in the jacks behind him, and all that swerving meant it would be more important for the arm to hang on to something instead of try to continue its access to the Kingsman files until now.
This just backs up my philosophy.
Yeah, I'm not continuing that one because that's just revolting.
This is what Eggsy decided was important enough to jump into a sewer to attend. Like, it would have made sense if it was he and his girlfriend's anniversary or something, but a f***ing birthday party?
Tell me Jeremy doesn't have any friends without telling me he doesn't have any friends.
Last time, yeah, I was wrecked, man.
Yeah, but that's because you're a lightweight, Jamal.
Sorry to mellow this bruv love, but that wasn't really that funny. I haven't seen someone overreact this much since Jamie Foxx turned electric blue because Spider-Man forgot his name.
At least Jamal here is keeping his cool instead of lashing out while Liam and Brandon are cackling like hyenas. And this coming from the guy who makes jokes so bad, more laughter has been heard in morgues and funerals.
Also, why are you worried about drinking tonight when you're visiting her parents tomorrow night?
Probably has something to do with how strong that particular brand of liquor is. Also, it would essentially be the case that since Eggsy's friends are stoners, the implication might be that they're partying hard tonight, and Eggsy doesn't want to become sluggish and unsuitable for a dinner with his girlfriend's parents, or even work in the morning. He's a Kingsman agent, meaning he has to uphold the gentlemanly role despite having Scouse origins.
While I enjoy this super over-the-top villain's lair, I've got to wonder, how do you build a place like this without it ever showing up in a satellite photo?
Could be that the tree line would obscure the buildings. I mean, Poppy's all about keeping her empire hidden, so she would have ways to go about keeping it as such. Also sinning something you like.
I just think it's really important for new recruits to understand the history of the Golden Circle.
Roll joints.
In hell. Alright, Stephen A. Smith, come back.
Stay off the damn weed!
No! People who are running away in a panic don't stop and do a slow burn to see what might be coming after them. Scared people are like my nostrils after eating Nashville hot chicken. They never stop running.
Could have done without that particular analogy, but you're basically on the money here, so I'll take a sin off and let you on your way.
Not that I'm complaining, because honestly, this bestie burger is already a bit gross for my taste, but if a live human went into this mincer, it would not only be kicking out meat, it would be kicking out clothes and hair and
You say that, but as you can clearly see, there's a separate chute for the torn-up clothes, meaning they won't be mixed into the mince. And what hair? He's as bald as a plucked chicken.
Look, I still don't know how these holograms are sitting in the correct places at the table they are not physically at, but as we've seen time and again, these movies are dicks when it comes to explaining hologram societies.
Oh my god, no one cares about your gripes with holograms. Ugh, makes me really worried about covering the Star Wars movies now.
Welcome to Golden Circle.
Cannabis Queen casually coerces co-worker cannibalism.
Slightly better than your attempt in How to Train Your Dragon The Hidden World, but you're still one word off since it starts with a Q. Also that pronunciation of cannibalism. I know I have moments where I tend to trip over my own tongue, but dude, You could have at least re-recorded it.
Sure, you need fingerprint authentication to even open a car door, but this menagerie of death opens with a random swipe?
Mostly because Eggsy's the only one that goes into his own office. I mean, he has been in the agency for a year and still would assume that no one's going to enter his office and mess with his equipment. The only wrench in that plan being JB wanting access to it.
What are we supposed to think Eggsy saw here? Certainly that level of firepower just completely shut down the feed, which likely means he just saw the screen go dark and really shouldn't be all that concerned.
He most likely heard the missile coming towards the property, plus there's missiles heading towards the Kingsman estate and the tailor shop, among other locations. He might also have seen this from the feed through Lancelot's glasses.
Also, this is a point the movie tries to have both ways when just a few seconds later, these guys are none the wiser as each of them is taken out.
Think of it like Order 66 or a lockdown procedure in a school emergency. It's an event going on so quickly that not many folks, if any, are able to respond in time until it's too late.
If your missile warning system goes off a split second before you explode, you went with the wrong missile warning system company.
Again, he's being warned about it too late to get out in time. So technically, this is Jeremy sinning reality.
Whir, buzz, spin, slide, turn. Are we impressed yet?
Okay, who let Jeremy do the sound effects?
I'm only alive because my address wasn't on the database with the agents.
And why are the addresses of the agents on that database anyway? Even if secret organizations do store addresses this way, would they make those accessible from a computer inside a taxi? This sounds like something you'd have to Mission Impossible to get.
The idea is that the database is secretive, and Charlie already had insider knowledge of the estate and the tailor shop. So all he needed was the rest of the addresses. That's where the taxi computer came in. Plus, this may have already been an elaborate revenge plot, since he was axed from the program in the previous year and lost pieces of himself at Valentine's End of the World party. Also, Tom Cruise is on the phone and he wants you to return his movie franchise. Otherwise he'll curse you with every tool in the Scientology handbook.
We're from Kingsman. We'd like to buy some wine. And use tasting room number 3, please.
So everything was on that database except the Kingsman's Doomsday Protocol location?
Not continuing this one either, as it's just double dipping, plus his signature yelling at the screen cliche.
Remember this?
Yeah, how could I forget?
I did. Quit treating the audience like they are uber fans of the first movie. Is it too much to ask for a sequel that can be enjoyed on its own?
It probably would be, because you come along and sin it anyway. Final destination. Besides, you're one of the only people that watched this movie and wasn't paying attention. And then you sin characters for not understanding things either. Ah, great. You've made me bring Green Day back here. Hope you're happy, Jez.
In case you confused it with Kentucky Iran.
No such place exists. Sin overruled.
Is this a standard issue spy watch that both agencies use even though they are not even aware of each other? How the hell do they know how to use it then?
First off, they are aware of each other's existence. It's just some of the agents aren't as privy to it as most of the longest lasting. So of course Tequila would know how to use the watch. Also, you put the instead of they for the captions there.
Hurry! Hurry!
3.
Their story checked out.
You mean Tequila was going to kill Harry before they figured out their story was true? And even if he wasn't going to do it, why would Catwoman walk in and yell stop like she was saving his life?
Well, for the second part, it's because Eggsy and Merlin were freaking out and trying to get Harry's attention. As for the first part, Tequila either had major trust issues or was new at the position, so he wouldn't have had a clue until Ginger Ale burst in with the umbrella.
Ah yes, you remember the place where Harry was killed in the last movie? It was Kentucky, of course. The place where a secret American spy outfit exactly like the Kingsman just so happens to be.
Yeah, so what's your point?
You're late.
And that will have no consequences whatsoever. Can't he just be on time? What does it fucking matter? Stop with the you're late bullshit in movies, assholes.
Old man yells at cloud cliche. Also, being late to a meeting can be an issue, like being late to work or being late from your lunch break.
Jeff Bridges? If you count Sir Elton, that's 5 Oscar winners in this movie. As I learned watching Sesame Street, sometimes the best place to find Oscars is slumming in the trash.
Seeing Jeff Bridges, huh? We're work and drinking buddies. Don't go besmirching his name there, or I'll have to hog-tie you and brand you until you're squealing like a little piggy. Also, Oscar from Sesame Street shouldn't be insulted like that. He deals with enough garbage, so don't go adding your videos to that trash pile.
Cheers, champ. Oh, and can you reserve a neat whiskey for me? I might need it after this video.
Course, Court. We've always got a nice bottle of whiskey on hand for you. Sure, you may be from the land down under, but we'd still consider you an honorary statesman.
Thanks ever so much.
We need to recreate a shock or trauma from his past to trigger his memory.
What? You mean you don't have a special gel or microchip or Criterion Collection DVD of the King's speech that will help trigger his memory? We gotta waste time with this movie that's nearly 2.5 hours? And yeah, we'd send the fact that something so easy would fix his memory, but we'd be nice about it.
Ooh, someone's telling porkies. And being a massive hypocrite as well, since you have so many unrelated sins that pad the count that you may as well just sit them in a pond and have frogs jumping on them, but yet want the movie to be shorter.
Well, if you save the world, you know what that means.
Man, Eggsy should really look into getting an anal sex rewards card. With enough points, he could get a free popcorn.
Wow. Are things with you and Mrs. Sins hitting a rough patch? Never thought I'd say this, but you really need to get laid. You're so pent up and unsatisfied.
You know, bruv, thought everything was supposed to be bigger in America.
Goes on your finger. The surveillance tracker is in the tip.
And we had no choice but to make it look like a condom for some easy jokes.
The hypocrisy is never ending.
The hand is not a mucous membrane, Eggsy.
Really, movie? The only way this incredibly advanced spy agency can track someone is with a finger condom that has to be gynecologically inserted. And what if she's not into you? What if you needed to track a man? Movie has less defined sense of decency and maturity than a Logan Paul video.
While I'm tempted to remove a sin for you calling out Logan Paul like that, and I did the same thing during Cars 2, you still asked a million irrelevant and easily answerable questions, so I think I'm just going to leave the count alone.
Poppy, would you pass your sugar, please?
Okay, but it's really bad for you.
That's why I keep whole bowls of sugar here, despite the rant that I'm about to go on about it.
Says the American. Meanwhile, in smaller quantities and in moderation, it's fine.
Don't get me started on tobacco and alcohol. You peddle that stuff and you're in the Fortune 500.
Wait, is this movie for recreational drug use or against it? Why is the villain making so much sense?
Villains can make good points but still be bad. The same way heroes can make bad points but still be good. Yin and yang, Jeremy.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Tents at festivals, no matter how opulent, do not have indoor plumbing.
Also, bulletproof tuxedos aren't a thing. Nor are trank dart watches. Or tasers designed like a signet ring. Or cologne grenade. Do you get it, Jeremy? This isn't our reality!
This means she's part of the Golden Circle, right? Why does she get to hang out at a music festival during a time when her boss is about to unleash her big plan? And by the way, this is exactly why you don't mark your henchmen with easily identifiable markings.
Well, the Golden Circle, and more importantly to her, Charlie, likely didn't expect Clara to have fun with other fellas. And even if she did, most of them would likely assume that the thing on her lower back is just a weird tattoo.
What, did he find a 24-hour pet store in rural Kentucky? Forgetting the fact that the time is f***ed anyway, it's nearly nighttime. And Harry is still sleeping when he brings this dog in.
Like I said 2 sins ago, this isn't our reality.
This goes on for some time.
Like I said during the robots video, 98% of the sins in your entire video roster only exist to pad the runtime.
You look
Like some it looking for an eye
There's no sigh loud enough to express my irritation with this bullshit. Sure, we need another Harry teaches an asshole a lesson in a bar scene so that we can see that he's back, but does it have to be the most rootin' tootin'est stereotypical redneck face imaginable?
Truly. Whether it's someone threatening violence or making an inappropriate remark, Harry's there to remind them that manners maketh man.
Also, this brings up another point. You never talk about your spy shit in a bar, especially a bar with so many dickheads in it.
You double dip so much, it's no wonder you're not invited to parties. Well, that and you don't have any friends. Calling it like it is.
This is actually a pretty clever play off the scene in the original, but like almost everything else in this movie, it depends on your memory of the first movie for it to even work. This is a 90-minute movie bloated to almost 2.5 hours by a severe case of sequelitis swelling.
First off, sinning something you like. Secondly, not understanding sequels tend to carry over from previous movies. Finally, making the medical faux pas of calling something itis when it's not, while also misspelling it with it-us.
Manners maketh man. Let me translate that for you.
Thank God native Kentuckian Pedro Pascal saves the day for the southern stereotypes in this movie. Oh, wait.
So, what I hear Jeremy saying here is that you can't play an American role if you aren't American. Do you hear how idiotic that sounds? He's an actor. It's his job. With that in mind, however, Jeremy really shouldn't try doing a British accent ever again, since it's so bad that Bert from Mary Poppins is laughing at you.
Golden Circle proudly presents.
Like most megalomaniacal villains, Poppy somehow has control over the American airwaves to override every channel Joker style to deliver this message.
Fox News say what?
Some of you are already infected.
This is exactly like the Tim Burton Joker plan. Just switch cosmetics with drugs and it's the same thing.
Jeremy, DC Comics is on the phone again. This time they want their villain back.
Breathing becomes impossible.
Luckily, Poppy had this perfectly timed to the second to prove her point.
Your point being?
What have you done to me, you f***ing
I guess that's funny because it's Elton John saying it.
Well, yes, but it's Elton John. So I'm not letting the sun go down on me for this one.
Step up 5, Reefer Madness.
Surprised he didn't make a Cotton Eye Joe reference, as predictable as it would have been.
We're not talking about a handful of hostages. We could be looking at the deaths of hundreds of millions worldwide.
You know, like a year ago when that same thing happened and everybody forgot about it.
I'm pretty sure they still acknowledge that incident. Meanwhile, the circumstances here are quite different, since this one is a drug-induced death, whereas a year ago they were all hidden away in a secret bunker and were never found.
Who are you? I'm here to collect this antidote.
Was this how the lab was going to give representatives of their countries the antidote? That this works for even the briefest moment is worthy of a sin. And the fact that Poppy has drones that are going to deliver the antidote anyway is worthy of another.
Dude, I've seen less padding in protective equipment for sporting events.
Galahad, come in!
Yes, Harry's butterfly effect distracts him, but did he lose total awareness? Why isn't he answering them?
Hang on a second. Did Jeremy constantly distracted Scott of CinemaSins just sin someone for being distracted?
You serious?
What? His magic lasso has an electric slicing setting, apparently? What else can it do? If Aquaman sits on it, will he admit that he's afraid of dying?
Oh no. This is turning into the nightmare of everything wrong with How to Train Your Dragon 2. So in addition to the 20 sins for a pop culture reference, I'm now giving you 2 more for giving me a PTSD moment.
Also, what exactly is the plan here? To cut a hole that somehow lets the whip out enough to reach all the way up and cut the tension lines, so that the machine can plummet into a ravine? How exactly is this helping?
Let's see here. You get the transportation to land in the snow away from the ravine so you can stop its momentum. I mean, hell, I'm not a math whiz, and even I can still put 2 and 2 together.
What the? Since when are they wearing parachutes? And why? I swear to God, this movie has conjured up more magically appearing items than J.K. Rowling.
It's always better to have and not need than to need and not have. Ever hear of that, Jeremy?
This gunslinging is actually pretty damn creative and fun, but there's no possible way one of these Golden Circle jerks...
Yeah, nah. Also not continuing this one. Sending something you like and sending Pedro Pascal.
Can these Gatling guns seriously not penetrate the stone wall that Harry and Eggsy are taking cover behind? These things are super powerful, right?
Stone is essentially like a Kevlar lining for structure. Bullets just won't go through. Also, it sounds like you just want Harry and Eggsy dead. Looks like we found Charlie's alt account here.
Oh, ye of little faith!
Come on, movie. Another magic out? At this point, we can just call this Ex Machina the movie and be done with it.
I'll lighten up, you muggle. They brought this gear and weaponry with them before they left Statesman. If you think this is a Deus Ex Machina, I'd love to see the look on your face when God actually arrives in front of you.
First, I've got to find a way to get back up to that lab and retrieve more antidote.
Your super secret rendezvous point was within eyesight of the lab. No wonder they found you. In fact, here's an extra sin for them not finding you sooner.
2 cliches in one? It must be my birthday. Yelling at the screen and padding the sin count.
If you ever wanted to do more than this.
Look, HB, you're the one that took the part, and I assume they sent you the script, so this one's on you.
It's cool, it's vibey, it's hip, it's edgy, but it's got that feeling of espionage and spy and action, and it's got humor and pathos along with levity. So it's, you know, it's got all the great elements, I think, that make movies great.
You want to try that again, Jez? Because this again sounds like you're putting words in other people's mouths.
I know the president decided not to cave to Poppy's demands, but did he really commission the production of all these cages? Or was there a cage warehouse somewhere that finally got its big break?
Are you the banana man?
Princess of Sweden, who I might remind you is a princess, is somehow in level 2 of the poison drug state without someone rushing her to a hospital.
Listen, if the situation was different than it already is, I'd agree with you. But the movie acknowledged that hospitals are having a hard time taking in new patients due to being full. So what's she supposed to do with that in mind?
Pop, are you expecting a
lawyer tonight?
Poppy somehow didn't tell her gun-toting henchman that her lawyer was going to show up tonight.
Your point being?
Don't move.
You had one job, Minesweeper.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
country road?
I don't know how.
No! Bad Jeremy! Sinning Merlin's final moments for any reason whatsoever. Also, I know this isn't the Final Destination series, but technically sinning John Denver.
Once again, henchmen decide not to go for the legs after it's clear that shooting the umbrella is not going to work.
Remember what I told you during the first movie? Of course you don't. Alright, well I'll repeat it again here. A Kingsman suit is bulletproof, meaning aiming for the legs would be just as pointless as shooting the umbrella.
What the hell? We've already seen this briefcase be a rocket launcher and a machine gun, but now there is nothing inside it. Even if I had an entire suspension bridge of disbelief, it wouldn't be enough.
Like I keep saying, Jeremy, this isn't our reality. And this would imply that you had any suspension of disbelief, and I've heard less pork pies coming out of a f***ing bakery.
I guess this is funny and all. Sometimes the dark recesses of my heart won't allow it. But this is a 70-year-old recording artist pulling off a martial arts move, and my brain can't handle it either.
So you acknowledge that Elton John fighting with martial arts is funny, and yet you still sin him and the movie for it. Don't go breaking my heart now, Jer.
We've already seen a dog operate at 76%, so why wouldn't he be able to come out and play at 89%?
Like it matters.
Knowing what we know about this mechanical arm, Eggsy's chest should be a crater right now.
Good thing this isn't reality. Huh, Jer. Oh, and by the way, your script is looking worse and worse the more I go through it.
Elton X Jonica.
Jeremy. Jeremy.
This has been possible the whole time? The whole time?
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Yo, Poppy! Yo, Poppy!
Sure, give her a reason to take off the Elton John failsafe, you dick.
See the previous sin.
For my mate Brandon, for Roxy, for JB, and for Merlin.
Who will all somehow be alive if we ever decide to make another sequel.
Objection here say they'd all still be dead if a third one of these was to come out. Just like Chester King, Richmond Valentine, Gazelle, the original Lancelot, and all the VIPs from the first movie.
So?
Oh, god damn it. I mean, I didn't forget about whiskey or anything. I was just hoping the movie did.
Okay, I have to stop you right there. Harry had already tried to warn Eggsy of Whiskey's treachery, but Eggsy didn't listen until it was too late. Hoping a movie would forget about a character that's important to the story would just be lazy writing. Which, knowing you, Jeremy, is probably a good reason as to why you don't make movies. Just these video essays that we all pick apart.
You try anything funny and I turn this thing electric.
So why don't you already? You're just going to spend the next several minutes monologuing about your very thin and very convenient motives for wanting drug users dead. None of which is necessary, since you easily could have killed them both by now and just let the infected druggies die.
Yeah, screw having character development and motivations. That's for suckers. Said no rational person ever.
This is some Now You See Me Too bullshit right here.
I can see where you're going with this, but this isn't magic, just gymnastics. And with all that, court is adjourned. Be sure to leave any more suggestions for CinemaSins sins down below, and I will see you in the next video.